Hey Wargamers, welcome back. Purple Druid presents Wargame Culture, and today I want to welcome you to a brief introduction as to what will become the focus of the Wargame Culture Design Journal for the rest of the year, generally speaking. I do have two projects that I'm wrapping up right now. The first is a look at Blackmore Foundations. The second is a look at Bill Lamming's medieval campaigns and battle rules. There will be a Wargame Culture Book Club entry on that. I will probably also do a quick review of the Solo Wargaming Practitioner's Guide by David Heading. This just came out in America. It has been out in England for a while. It came out from Pen and Sword. This literally just came in the mail for me yesterday. That's the first time I've cracked it open. I have no idea what's in here. But I have been doing a lot of driving back and forth to the hospital over the last couple weeks to see my wife, and I've been listening to podcasts and things like that. And one thing that's really cool is our friend Runehammer, who is probably best known for Index Card RPG, has released about 70 of his old Patreon podcasts on YouTube. And I've listened to a bunch of those, and they're really good. Actually, they're very, very good. And some of them, quite frankly, are genius. And the most recent one that I listened to was about going back to the beginning and starting his creative process from scratch. I guess these podcasts are about 4 years old, so he's had some changes in his life that led up to this. And I'm not sure, where he stands now, but again, this is 4 years ago. But he mentioned that he had studied the art of war extensively in college as a philosophy major, and so I had a copy of this book, but it was just a little cheesy one. I have picked this one up. It has a great introduction, about 80 pages of history and information, and then we have the complete Art of War text. And then in the second half, we have the text repeated with commentary by the author. So this looks to be really interesting. I have this morning read through the text itself. There's not a lot to it. It's 13 short chapters of bullet points, but it does. I read this about 20 years ago, and frankly, I needed the reminder. There was some really good stuff in here, and I think this will help out with the Grand Project. So next up on the list, I also dug this out, The Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. I've had this for a long time. Again, I don't think I've read this for 20 years. It's copyright 93, so I probably bought it in the 20th century. Again, this has a lot of really interesting information on personal discipline as well as warfare. So I think that reviewing this will assist not only with the preparation of the Wargame Project, but it ought to give me a little bit of help with some personal discipline. Next, we're going to be diving into the Siege of Bodenberg. We're going to replay a game with this using these rules. We're not going to replay the siege. We will duplicate this map, or not this map. We will duplicate the process. We'll use the rules, but we're going to do a different battle, and we're going to use. We're going to see how it plays out. We're going to see what happens, and see what we can learn from that. Then the big deal is Strategos. Now, this is a Lulu printing of a PDF that I got from the University of California. It's in the public domain. It's from 1880, so we're looking at what, 140 years. Um, this book is what David Wesley read and then turned into Strategos N, which was then adapted into Strategos A for Ancients and R for Russo-Turkish. The principles of the war game within this book led to the war game campaign known as Blackmoor, which eventually mutated and developed and evolved into Dungeons and Dragons. Now, Blackmoor also used information from chainmail, but there's some research out there and you can look it up for yourself if you're interested, but it's my understanding from the research I've done that Dave Arneson used the Strategos combat rules and he used the chainmail monster rules, and then there was some other sort of combat system that was being used for the man-to-man combat. I don't know if it was a variation on Strategos. It's my understanding that Siege of Bodenberg was not used much by the Twin Cities group. This was more of a Gary Gygax thing. I also don't know, and I haven't been able to find any information about what Jeff Perrin was into besides helping put together this chainmail rule set. So, like I said, we're going to find out how this works. Rodney Hampton at Dragons Beyond has done a ton of work reading through this and summarizing it and playing the basic game. So we're not going to duplicate that. However, we are going to go through this literally page by page. We are going to pull out all of the rules that we need. I went through the chainmail table of contents that has a turn sequence, the movement rules, the terrain rules, the formation rules, fatigue, missile fire, melee combat, and morale. All of that exists in here. All of that we will discover together. And then in the introduction, here, in the preface, I should say, Strategos is the result of several years of private study, unassisted by reference to any foreign code, until it had become a finished system. Which I believe, because it is different from Kriegspiel. And then he says that there are applications this outfit may be put to that do not come within the scope of any continental war games and are purely American features. These applications are the universal comprehension of all details of minor tactics, the capacity for the study of grand tactics, strategy, and military topography, the special facility afforded by the outfit for the study of historical battles and campaigns, and then the assistant it affords for illustrating textbooks based on military principles. Number 5, the simple battle game based on correct military principles and calculated to instruct as well as interest the large class of students whose patience would not stand the attempt to study the more complicated advanced game. And then it says, finally, advanced studies embodying all that is valuable in the foreign codes and introducing many new and noticeable improvements in the matter of method, men, tables, and adaptability to American requirements. So that's a lot to say what this game is designed for, what this book, what this textbook is designed for. And as mentioned over and over, this is very, very detailed. It is based on statistical analysis. And when it does come time to do the shooting, there are a whole bunch of really cool tables in here. Again, you'll notice, this is reminiscent of the Kriegspiel pieces. There's an order of the procedure, and then how far can groups march, how much time is required for various purposes, building a fascine, building a gabion. So that's interesting. We also have in here, and this is pretty interesting, table S is the chance of success for combat, veterans versus new troops. They will succeed at a ratio of 4-1. Troops attacked by surprise. So again, we're going to go through all of this. We are going to pull out the summary of things that we need to make a battle game. A fantastic battle game to be used in fantastic miniature war game campaigns that is consistent with correct military principles. Now, this is one of the most important tables here, which is table T, and this is one that David Wesley had revised in order to fit into his Napoleonic game, because these are pretty dense, a small type, so he just kind of summarized these. But essentially, what it means is each side rolls a die. The side with the higher number gets the victory. The lower side gets the consequences, and then the difference between the die rolls determines the consequence. So if I roll a 6 and you roll a 3, I win. The difference is 3, and it's a brilliant victory. Position is carried, and 1/8 of the defenders are taken prisoner. Troops are well in hand. They may pursue advantage immediately and continue pursuit for 5 minutes, which would be 5 turns, capturing 1/4 of the remainder as prisoners, etc., etc. So, again, very detailed, based on statistical analysis. And this is what we're going to explore, and so the applications that we're looking for, again, based on what Mr. Totten has written, we are looking to share a comprehension of wargame tactics, a capacity for the study of grand tactics, strategy, and military topography, which are important to the map-based campaign. We're going to study historical battles and campaigns in order to create a textbook of wargaming principles. We are going to create a fantastic battle game based upon correct military principles, and this will include advanced studies such as politics and diplomacy, trade, and economics. Those things are not covered in here. They are covered in other books, and we will discuss the various origins of those and which will be best and how they should be best abstracted. And number 7, the final thing and the ultimate point of this entire project is to generate a higher order RPG campaign. And by higher order RPG campaign, I mean a campaign that operates at a multitude of scales simultaneously. The individual scale with player characters going on adventures, delving dungeons, exploring the wilderness. A skirmish scale where there's parties or groups of adventurers and their men-at-arms and their troops traveling the wilderness, encountering enemy groups and fighting them. Faction scale where landholders and leaders of guilds interact and conflict within a realm. And then you have realm scale, and then you have kingdom scale, and so on and so forth. So all of this exists at once, down amongst the dancing quanta, as the saying goes. All of this exists at once in a higher order RPG campaign. And we're going to start with this, and we're going to sort all that out, because between this and then the travel to this, and then when we get to this, and finally to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and beyond, the concept of the higher order multi-scale simultaneous campaign has been lost. And that's the kind of campaign that I want to run. That's the kind of campaign I want to participate in. And that's the kind of campaign I would love to be able to share with you, with the audience. So that's where we're going right now. I urge you to go ahead and subscribe. Like I said, the paid subscribers will be getting the design journal and the research notes right away. The free subscribers will be getting the notes and etc. later on. And any support that you can give, again, we'll just go to support my efforts in determining this information. This is my white whale, if you will. This information has been lost for 50 years, and no one's really interested in sharing it. The people who are famous for their histories of our game, they tend not to be wargamers, and so this information isn't as important to them as who played the first wizard, and how does seduction rolls work, and stuff like that. So to me, it's this war game stuff that's the most important. And without this war game background, I don't believe that the wilderness exploration and the dungeon crawling or any of that really makes sense and has any sort of context. So this is the project for the rest of the year. I do invite you to tag along and be part of it. I look forward to your continued support and feedback. Thank you very much, and keep on gaming.